and welcome. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna, and our big focus on the show today is India's successful moon mission. Well, India has scripted history today. India is now on the moon. In a moment that gave goosebumps to every Indian who was brimming with pride, and one that will remain etched in our memories forever. India's moon mission, Chandrayaan-3, made a successful landing on the moon earlier today. With this, India is now in the elite space club of 4 countries to have ever landed on the moon, and the very first country in the world to make a soft landing near the moon's south pole. That moment led to massive cheers, unbridled excitement, even tears of joy for 1 billion plus people of this country. The South Pole of the moon is the most sought after new destination since traces of water were found on the moon. The touchdown took place at 6:04 p.m. this evening amid huge cheers in the war room of India's space agency, ISRO. Congratulatory messages for ISRO scientists and India have been pouring in from across the world. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who joined in the event online from South Africa, where he's currently attending the BRICS summit, said, and I quote, "This moment is precious and unprecedented. This moment announces the victory of New India. This moment is the strength of 1.4 billion heartbeats." He went on to say, India reached the uncharted lunar South Pole because of our scientists' hard work and talent. Our moon mission is also based on the human-centric approach, which is why the success belongs to all of humanity. It'll help moon missions by other countries in the future, the Prime Minister said. Now for the next 14 days, equivalent to 1 moon day, the Pragyan rover will send images and data from the surface of the moon. After 14 days, its activity is likely to slow down given that it's powered by solar cells. The moon lander was launched on 14 July. Perched on an LVM-3 heavy lift launch vehicle. It was placed in the lunar orbit on the 5th of August. The lander Vikram is named after Vikram Sarabhai, widely regarded as the father of the Indian space program. After the moon mission, ISRO has a number of projects lined up. One of them, a mission to study the sun and a human spaceflight program, Gaganyaan. Aditya L1, the first space-based Indian observatory to study the sun, is getting ready for launch, most likely in the first week of September. But today, all that matters is that India is on the moon and we Indians are over the moon. So what does this spectacular feat mean for India's space program, its scientists, its space agency, for humanity in general, and for the global lunar race that is gathering pace?
To hear from the Secretary, Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
लैंडर मॉड्यूल पूरी तरह से सेफली और सॉफ्टली चंद्रमा के सतह पे लैंड हो चुका है। ये हम लोगों के लिए बहुत ही गर्व की बात है। हिंदी में एक कहावत है कि चंदा मामा दूर के, लेकिन अब हम ये कह सकते हैं कि चंदा मामा अपने घर के।
हमारे वैज्ञानिकों के परिश्रम और प्रतिभा से भारत चंद्रमा के उस दक्षिणी ध्रुव पर पहुंचा है जहां आज तक दुनिया का कोई भी देश नहीं पहुंच सका। अब आज के बाद से चांद से जुड़े मिथक बदल जाएंगे, कथानक भी बदल जाएंगे और नई पीढ़ी के लिए कहावतें भी बदल जाएगी। भारत में तो हम सभी लोग धरती को मां कहते हैं और चांद को मामा बुलाते हैं। कभी कहा जाता था चंदा मामा बहुत दूर के हैं, चंदा मामा बहुत दूर के हैं। अब एक दिन वो भी आएगा जब बच्चे कहा करेंगे चंदा मामा बस एक टूर के हैं।
Honorable Prime Minister called me and conveyed his greetings to each one of you and your family for the wonderful work you did in ISRO. So thanks are to him for the support that he is giving to us for missions like Chandrayaan-3 and the missions that are in the offing. I think that's a great word of comfort that we are receiving for pursuing the inspirational work that we are doing for the nation. I want to tell you, and I want to thank you also for each and everyone who prayed with us in the last many days, who wanted this success to happen in ISRO. I thank all those people in all around the country and maybe beyond the country for their blessings and wishes and affection that he has given to each one of us for doing this work for the last so many years. And of course, this is not the work of us alone. This is a work of a generation of ISRO leadership and ISRO scientists. And this is a journey we started in Chandrayaan-1, continued in Chandrayaan-2, and Chandrayaan-2 craft is still working and doing a lot of communication work with us. And all the team that contributed to building Chandrayaan-1 and Chandrayaan-2 should be remembered and thanked while we celebrate Chandrayaan-3. And this is an incremental progress and definitely a great, huge one it is. And thank you so much for all the support and work that you have done. Thank you.
What a day for India. What an absolutely proud moment. Before I go across to our guests, our experts on the show, I want to point out something to our viewers. I'm drinking this mug from the News9 coffee mug, and well, I did not even realize until a few minutes ago what is written on this mug. I want to share this with you. The graffitis on my mug says, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Neil Armstrong, the first man who landed on the moon." How befitting, because today India has become only the 4th country in the world to land on the moon and the very first, ladies and gentlemen, to make a soft landing near the south pole of the moon. What a day it is for India. Let's discuss this and dissect this with our panel of experts. Joining me on the show tonight, Dr. C.M. Nautia, former scientific collaborator, Lunar Science Program, and Dr. Prajwal Shastri, Emeritus Scientist of Astronomy and Astrophysics. Welcome to the show. Many congratulations to you, because we owe this to our scientific community. If it weren't for India's absolutely brilliant scientists, we wouldn't be here today. So, Dr. Prajwal Shastri, let me start with you. What a day this is for India. I mean, it's still sinking in. That moment when ISRO declared that the landing had been successful was just so exciting. We all had goosebumps. We were jumping for joy in the newsroom, clapping, shouting, applauding that moment. But tell us, what does that moment mean to you as a scientist? What does this feat mean for India?
Firstly, I think your congratulations to us is a little bit misplaced. We do need to honor the thousands of scientists and engineers and the support staff from ISRO who
all of them,
really
ma'am. Each one of them.
Years.
Absolutely. Each one of them.
They've worked at this for years, right from building the components and so on, and then into all the processes that go into the launch. So we do need to honor them. Most of them we don't even know their names and faces of. So we do need to remember them. So this is indeed a historic moment. For a scientist like me, I'm excited about the scientific goals of the mission. They will start to bear fruition, hopefully very shortly. And we will get, because this mission has aimed to land in a different part of the moon compared to other missions, we will get extra data with which we can test hypotheses about how the moon was in fact formed. So I look forward to that. So from that point of view, I would say that this soft landing is just a step. It is a necessary technological step. Remember that the first soft landing on the moon by an instrument like this was done in 1966. And that was followed soon after by the Apollo mission, which you mentioned. So the Apollo mission was for the first time able to take samples from what we call the moon dust, which is the stuff which is on the surface of the moon, and analyze the composition of that stuff. And that was historic, that was landmark, because it actually helped choose between different hypotheses that were in the air at the time as to how the moon was formed. And what Chandrayaan is going to do is it's going to collect some more samples from a very different part of the moon. So this is how science progresses. So we will be able to test those results against the hypothesis about the formation of the moon that is prevalent now. So that is one thing that we all look forward to. Also, not to forget what the orbiter, what ISRO is calling the propulsion module, which is going to be orbiting the moon for a bit. That also has a scientific instrument, which also has an interesting experiment, which will look at the data from the Earth's atmosphere, not to learn more about the Earth's atmosphere, but to help in simulating and modeling scientific data that are being gathered from planets in other planetary systems outside our own solar system. So this is part of the sort of larger scientific investigation that astrophysicists are doing.
Right. In fact, Prime Minister Modi has dedicated this not just to all Indians, but to all of humanity. Let me now bring in Dr. Nautya at this point. Sir, there is no doubt that this is a truly historic day for India. It's a spectacular feat. It is big enough that we're now in the elite space club of just 4 countries that have managed to land on the moon. But what I want to understand from you as a layperson is this. What is it about making a soft landing near the south pole of the moon that is so extraordinary that no country has managed to do it till date, and India has managed to pull off this feat? Please explain the significance of this to us and our viewers, sir.
Is that to landing on the other side is always more challenging. Second thing is that we did not know so much about the other side of the moon as about this side, and therefore it made it more difficult. Whatever landings have been made so far have been on the Earth-facing side, about which we know much more than on the other side. The interesting thing about the other side is that the crater frequency and the crater distribution on these 2 sides of moon are different. Does it have anything to do with the origin of moon? Because we still are not very sure whether Earth actually had just 1 moon or 2 moons. Now, the 2 sides of the present existing moon, one side faces Earth, and we know that the Earth had a very high temperature in the beginning. Therefore, one side of moon was exposed to very hot Earth, whereas the other side was exposed to low temperatures. So this could have been a reason in the difference between the nature of surface on the 2 sides. Therefore, that makes it important. Then going to an unknown terrain. One more thing I may add, that the people are getting an impression that we had landed very near the pole. This is not so. It's about 69 degrees south. Therefore, still a bit away from the pole, but still we are the first to range in that area. So I think it's a very important achievement for Indian science. More importantly, I wish that it helps people appreciate the euphoria should not die down in a day. I expect it to raise respect for science in the minds of people and make them more scientific, tempo-wise, as well as in terms of support to science.
You're quite right, sir. And I can tell you that every Indian is incredibly proud of their scientists today, especially at ISRO, who seem to have achieved the impossible. And of course, you're right in saying that we're not exactly on the south pole of the moon, but we've got near the south pole, and that is the first. No country has achieved it before. Dr. Shastri, if I could come back to you, correct me if I'm wrong, but traces of water have been found in the past on the south pole of the moon. Is that the primary reason why you now have a lunar race with almost everyone wanting to get near the South Pole, though India is the only country that's managed it so far? And also, if you could quickly tell us a bit about the Russian lunar mission, which ended in disaster just a few days, crashing on the moon. What do you think went wrong for Russia there? And how do you think India has managed to pull off this feat? And yes, if you could also explain to us the significance of the south pole of the moon.
I think we should wait for the Russian team to investigate what went wrong with their mission. The Indian mission was successful this time because they actually took lessons from the last mission, which did not do the soft landing, and they incorporated sufficient safeguards and so on in order to make this a success. As was already mentioned, the southern region of the moon is less explored. So, like I said before, if we get samples of moon dust from different parts of the moon, we learn more and more about what could have been its evolution, how it might have formed, and all of that. So in that sense, exploring a newer region is significant and is good for science. The fact that we have landed in the moon, I mean, it's not something new because it has been done before, but I hope that the fact that an Indian science team has done this will help people in changing their view about scientific results overall. So even though science has told us how the moon was formed, what is its relationship to the Earth, and why the phenomena that we see happen, for example, the phases of the moon, even the phases of Venus and all of this, in India, even educated people, even people with engineering degrees and PhD degrees, huddle at home from fear when eclipses happen, for example, and adopt very, very unscientific attitudes towards children, towards pregnant women, and all of that. So I hope that this achievement will actually put a stop to all that, and I hope that our media will also pay greater attention to the scientific results and how we know what we know and what we are going to know, rather than give vent to a lot of unscientific things which then just take people in the completely wrong direction and which actually debilitate the thinking in IU. So I hope that this mission will make a shift in the public discourse.
Lift off normal.
Well, we certainly hope so too, because we do need a scientific temper if we have to, in fact, grow further in this field. Dr. Nautya, let me come back to you. You know, again, there are a lot of concepts that lay people do not understand. So, if you could please explain to us and our viewers, what exactly is a soft landing? Why do you think there is a global lunar race that's currently on? Why does everyone want to get to the moon? And when, you know, Dr. Shastri says that from the South Pole, we are hoping to get significant information and data and images, what exactly is it all about? Why is it so important for us and for science? And there is also a thing called lunar economy. I wonder if you want to also weigh in on that.
Okay. The one thing is that India has established its supremacy and its capability in space technology by landing on moon. Now that it has landed in an area which was so far unexplored, I won't attach it that much importance, but yes, this was an unexplored virgin area where India has gone. That is fine. There is water there. Water is present on moon was known after the Chandrayaan-3 also. But I think not enough has been done, because water is one of the primary requirements. Later, if we want to send man on moon or woman on moon, the basic requirements will be water and oxygen in addition to food. Now, if we get water there, water can also give us oxygen. Water can also give us hydrogen, which is a very, very clean fuel. So if we get fuel, if we get oxygen, if we get water, then going on the moon and staying on the moon will be much easier. It can also serve as an intermediate station if we want to go to the other planets like Mars. Of course, the moon surface, like we have treaty on Antarctica and the Arctic area, there must be, I am sure, a treaty, or there will be a treaty about moon. It will not be monopolized or owned by a single country. But still, I think there are a lot of things there, for example, helium-3, which is very important for fusion. Later, if there is a plan to establish a nuclear fusion reactor there, fusion is not still a viable reality on Earth, but I think it may be there maybe in a decade or two. Then helium-3 is the more efficient fuel for nuclear fusion than helium-4. In fact, China claimed that they have sent that Chang spaceship to the other side of moon only for this reason, because there is a lot of helium there. This helium-3 could be one more reason why people should explore water on moon is another thing. The third thing which rover and rover mainly has two experiments, alpha-ray spectrometry, and it also has a laser-induced breakdown analysis by spectroscopy on the lunar material. And this will tell us what kind of elements are there in the lunar soil. We have studied lunar soils more than 4 or 5 decades ago. So we know that there are not any very new elements there. Elements are same, but the relative proportion is different. For example, you find a lot of aluminum in the lunar soil, which we don't see on Earth or in Earth's crust. There are some other specialty about the lunar soils, and while we have earlier studied samples from the Earth-facing side of moon, we have not studied samples from the other side. From this side, we have analyzed samples of soil, and we have realized that this is very rich in gases like helium, neon, argon, krypton, and xenon, which are commonly known as inert gases or noble gases, and the source is the sun. So these samples also give us an idea of the particulate emission from the sun. They give us an example of these noble gases, and the isotopic ratios of these noble gases can tell us about the processes on the sun and the nature of the sun's atmosphere or the material. This is second important. Now, third thing is, of course, somebody asked, like, why did you climb up the Himalayas? He said, because it's there. So southern region was unexplored, and India has done it. But I think there is another side to this whole story. By establishing our credentials in space travel so accurately and so well and with such a perfection, we have also established in a way our credentials in launching satellites. We have already done them, but this success, I think, takes us a notch up when it comes to trusting any country for sending satellites into space, which is going to be a very, very big commercial venture in the future. There are many countries who would like to launch satellites, but they don't have that capability. So they will have to depend on other countries. India has done it very economically, about 1/8 of the amount which the United States had spent. We also, and this is despite the fact that we don't have huge powerful engines like Saturn V or Soyuz 2, which USA and Russia had used. So we reduced the cost. We did do, India did do, or ISRO did do some kind of outsourcing for material, but that was with the Indian agencies, Indian private companies. So that also establishes space technology as a very important commercial venture. I think this will boost private industries also. And scientifically, of course, as I said, we will be getting a lot of new information once we have the sample recognition on. Plasma density would be measured there. Elements present in the soil would be measured there. Similarly, as Dr. Prachala Shastri also mentioned, we are also monitoring under a project called SHAPE. We are also monitoring Earth from there. as a habitable planet. I think all this information will be very valuable.
Absolutely. We've crossed so many important frontiers, and it does look like in the space race we've lost, I beg your pardon, we've left some of the biggest countries behind. Last word to you, Dr. Shastri. You know, the last few moments before the landing are described as 15 minutes of terror. So I'd love to know how nervous you were at the time when everybody was waiting with bated breath to see if this mission was going to be successful. And also my next question to you is, what next for India's space program? We are already on the moon, and the Prime Minister has said the next mission is going to be the sun mission or the solar mission.
So the solar mission is something that will bring a whole host of new scientific results. For sure, and that has been in the works for a very long time, so we all look forward to the results, because as you know, our sun is just another star. So what we learn about our sun is also in effect more understanding about how some of the stars around us function, and therefore how the larger processes in the universe function. So that's something we really look forward to. I would say that this is really a moment of responsibility, and it's my own hope that India can now, with this capability and therefore with the voice that it has in the whole discourse about the use of space, make use and leverage its own position to make the use of space into much more of a collaborative and a positive enterprise for all of humanity. You mentioned race for the moon. I think we really need to be mindful about that, because science, as you know, has had its positive consequences and its negative consequences, and the negative consequences have often been attributed to the fact that scientists are not mindful enough about where they are headed. And the consequences, the social consequences of what we're doing. And so the only way forward really is for all of humanity to have a voice in how the scientific enterprise moves ahead. So science is a public good, space is a public good, knowledge is a public good, and that is the only tenable framework in which we can move ahead.
Absolutely. Well, they say you aim for the moon, you'll probably reach the stars. Today, we have reached the moon. On that note, Dr. Nautiyar and Dr. Shastri, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for demystifying India's lunar mission for us on what has truly been a historic day. Thank you. All right, time for us to slip into a quick break here on Global Lens, but don't go anywhere. There's lots more on the other side, including the latest from the BRICS Summit in Johannesburg.
Gautam Adani, one of the richest men in the world, or a business honcho, accused of manipulating the market.
अदानी जी 609 नंबर से दूसरे नंबर तक कैसे पहुंचे? सिर्फ एक सवाल पूछा, नरेंद्र मोदी जी, आपका अदानी जी से रिश्ता क्या है?
He has given the space, the railways, the airport.